We'll get started with approval of the April 8th Planning Board meeting minutes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Abstention? Okay, number 2, disclosure of conflict of interest. Are there any conflicts that members wish to disclose? Hearing none, we'll move on. Number 3, Steve Dostie is requesting approval for revisions to a previously approved site plan for a restaurant to be constructed at 415 KMD. Good evening.
Again, my name is Jeff Allen from Nate Hudson. Flip that mic on. Oh, sorry. It was on.
Is it not
Now?
connected?
Test 1, 2. There we go. So this is the same plan that we approved a couple months ago. Mr. Dostie has talked to the lessees about the property, and they're asking for a smaller building. So this is sort of preliminary to go back and shrink this building size down, and they also asked for a patio area outside. So that's what we've shown on the plan now. This is the footprint that's going to be there. They're still designing the structure. But the only change is the building size, and we did have to add another catch basin over just to the left of where the patio is to maintain drainage in that area. We moved the transformer pad back to the other side of the building, so that wouldn't be right near the outside seating area. So that's the change. The parking lot has remained the same. That's all I have. Any questions?
Any questions?
Jeff, is there any fence or guardrail for the people sitting on the patio because it's so close to the driveway?
There is a wall, a 4-foot, I believe it'll be a masonry wall that'll be around there. That'll be on the street side, both on the KMD side and on the Century Drive side. The side opposite KMD will be open so they can walk back and forth that way.
Okay. So the patio itself will be at grade? And
Yeah,
the
it's
wall
more of
will be
a,
above?
yeah,
Okay.
just a walk-on patio. It's not elevated at all.
Okay.
Probably be made out of pavers.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Jeff?
Oh, I did reach out to all of the reviewers, water, sewer, city engineer, and fire department, and they had no comments on this change. They wanted to stand with their existing approvals that they had.
Okay.
The sewer department actually said their connection cost might be even a little bit less expensive because it's a smaller facility.
Nice.
So,
All right. Any other questions for Jeff? Okay, I'll make a motion to approve.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good luck.
Thanks. Thank you.
Okay. Dylan, final plan review.
Good evening.
Good evening. Any changes since you presented it to us?
Nope.
Okay. Does anybody have any other questions for Dylan in regards to the airport hangar? Okay. Hearing none, I will move to the findings and facts. Do you have a copy of these?
I do.
Yeah, okay, perfect. So I just kind of read the number and I won't say everything, but you just say true or false. So the development will not result in undue water or air pollution on or off site.
True.
Sufficient water available for the reasonable foreseeable needs of the development.
True.
Will not cause unreasonable soil erosion.
True.
Item number 4, the development will not cause an unreasonable highway or public road congestion.
True.
Item number 5, the development will provide for adequate waste disposal.
True.
Item number 6, the development will not cause an unreasonable burden on the ability of the municipality to dispose of sewage.
True.
Item number 7, the development will not have an undue adverse effect on the scenic or natural beauty of the area.
True.
Item number 8, the development is in conformance with zoning.
True.
Item number 9, the developer has adequate financial and technical capacity to meet the above stated standards.
True.
Okay, and then the conditions that are attached were just in the letter.
I did read them.
Okay, any questions about any of those?
No.
Any further discussion? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Okay. Heath. Heath, right?
It was a tie.
Is it a tie? Oh, it's like surround.
Doesn't matter.
Okay. All those in favor? All right. See, pretty painless.
That's it?
That's it.
Okay.
Do we have anything we have to sign?
We don't, I didn't receive. it.
Okay.
We need to have a plan for them to sign. We can talk about that.
Okay.
Have you fellas been in touch with New Dimensions?
Oh, about the,
Will the car show up there? If there gonna be any problems with that?
I believe that's a Randy question, but he says there's no issue.
Take care, thanks.
all right. Last but not least, Waterville City Council is requesting the planning board's recommendation concerning revisions to the zoning ordinance. I still done. I had one. I don't know which one. Okay.
Sam, can I ask,
Yeah.
is it possible to just summarize this really quickly for me? I'm just trying to catch up real quick, but this is,
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ann, do you want to take that one?
Yeah, I was kind of hoping that Dan
Okay.
would do this. Basically, the most important thing here is that the state law now requires us to allow mobile homes in every zone that allows single-family homes. So we added them into the residential A zone, and that follows in all the other zones. But the ordinance also allows us to have a little leeway, and so in this draft that you have, it's in your shared space, and I emailed it to you, we proposed requiring a foundation or frost wall and a pitch roof, which is, what was the pitch? Six? For mobile homes that are in the residential A, C, D zones, not the B zone or rural residential, because they already allow mobile homes, but also in historic districts. So Dan has told us that, correct me if I'm not right about this, but that a single wide can't accommodate a roof of that pitch. And so what that's going to do is eliminate single wides in just those zones, not the residential B and not the rural residential.
and why not residential B?
Because they already allow mobile homes in those two zones. So the idea is the state is requiring
Yeah.
this to
Yeah,
make
I'm
more-
familiar with that, but I'm surprised about the residential B zone. Has that been?
Yeah, we've
But
allowed,
it
that's
was
been
rural
allowed.
residential, and then the parks were where they were allowed before.
Well, just double wides in residential B, correct,
Okay,
Ann?
double wides.
Previously.
In the past, right.
Yeah.
So we would include the pitched
So this
roof
is a
in
draft. You can,
residential B as well.
you can make whatever
Okay.
changes you want.
Yeah, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but now, with the way this is written, would single wides be allowed in Res B? Because we.
Yes,
Yeah.
single wides would be allowed in residential B and rural residential.
Okay. So that's one change, because right now they're only,
Yeah, I think the idea was to avoid not allowing them anywhere. I don't think we can do that.
we can't.
By state law, we have to allow them somewhere.
Well, we are allowing them in all of the residential areas, just not without a certain pitch of the roof. and a
We're
certain type
allowing
of
them,
foundation.
but we're saying it's not really possible to have them because.
Which is included, well, you can still have them, they just have to adhere to those standards, so, which is what the state mandate allows for. So we can include the same mandate that we have in in Res A, in Res B, which I would recommend.
Well, and they would still be allowed in rural residential.
Well, and we are just
Yeah.
talking about, if you look at if, I don't want to hijack the meeting, but if you look at the different styles of homes that are available, it is vast. I'm sure Dan can attest to, and I think the idea is to keep, before we weren't allowing any type of, and now we're not calling them mobile homes anymore, they're called manufactured homes. So manufactured homes are, we're allowed to choose what pitch of roof and what type of foundation we want in the different residential zoning. And I think that we should stay uniform across A and B because they're very similar zones. And we're still allowing manufactured homes in these zones. They just have to adhere to these standards, which I think if you look at the neighborhoods that are residential A and B, those same standards would apply to both of those neighborhoods, I think. That's my opinion. Y'all don't have to follow me at all.
Any other
So
thoughts?
could you just, so you're saying we should allow single wides in all zones, even though we know they can't actually
Well,
be placed there with that pitch roof?
we aren't actually allowed to prohibit any type of manufactured home specifically like single or double wide, but we can mandate the type of foundation that they have or the type of pitched roof. If I'm being honest, to mandate the type of foundation that we would be looking at in residential A or B, that would price out a truly mobile home in pretty much any circumstance. So if, it depends, where you're looking to go with that. But to require a foundation and not the pitched roof as well, it's just a semantics at that point. The foundation is truly very expensive, so.
My thought is, I don't look at it as a foundation pricing out. Is it on?
It says on.
How's that? That's the best I can do.
Oh, thank you.
You're taking me off my thought here, but in any event, I don't see the foundation pricing out the mobile home. What I see, the foundation is creating something for the structure that would conform with what's expected, I guess, to be in residential A. That's my thought. So.
Right. Whoops, sorry. Can I respond to that?
Yeah.
So, yes, I'm just saying that the cost associated with the type of foundation that would comply with the standards is not inexpensive. And so to put a single wide on that type of foundation is quite cost prohibitive. I don't think that the purpose of requiring the foundation is to price these out, but I do think that certain homes only have a lifespan of 15 to 20 years. And so when we're looking at neighborhoods that are established residential neighborhoods, requiring a foundation helps maintain the integrity of any structure. And so that is a priority so that we're not aging out of any structures that are in our residential areas. But here's the thing, this is the reason for the change at the state level, is it's not really to just allow homes wherever, but as Dan could probably attest to, based on his experience as a code enforcement officer, and also, are you on the manufactured housing board?
No.
No, members of your family are. So there are so many amazing different types of mobile homes now that really, truly will outlive that 20-year mark. Are very elaborate designs, things like that, but based on our former codes, even those houses wouldn't have been allowed in residential A, B, anything besides rural residential and parks. So the goal here is to make sure that we're not saying no to any type of housing, but I think that there are standards that help encourage longevity of neighborhoods, like foundations. So requiring a foundation is an important part of ensuring that structures last beyond the 15 to 20 year lifespan that certain structures are only projected to land within. Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm.
I understand.
You understand? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any other thoughts?
I'm a little confused.
Okay.
Sorry.
So
Dragging these out. Sorry.
the state made a change to the rules, and then we're adapting our regulations to meet the state rules.
Within the parameters of the state mandate. Yeah.
So the state wanted to allow manufactured housing in more locations.
Yes.
So we're talking about residential A, B, or A, C, and D.
Well, you guys are talking about A, C, and D. Residential D is rural residential, right? Is Res D?
No, there's two.
There are two?
Yeah.
Okay.
Rural residential is residential D is a high-density zone. That's Pleasant Street. Where else is it, Dan? Sorry, I blanked out.
It's a small zone.
Yeah, there's not a lot of.
Not a lot of development.
Rural residential is the.
Web Road.
Lot that the zone that requires the largest lots, 20,000 square foot lots.
Okay.
So the idea is to encourage manufactured housing in more locations.
The idea is to encourage housing
Yeah.
in as many locations as possible and to remove restrictive city covenants that prohibit all types of manufactured housing. Okay.
But you're saying that we should remove, we're going to allow manufactured housing, except that we're going to require certain things that make it improper.
Well, what I'm saying is why are you requiring these specific standards in A, C, and D, but not B? Doesn't make sense. Like, why wouldn't you just apply it to all 4 residential zones? We're talking, like, residential B is like Matthews Ave, Violet Ave, Cool Street,
Right.
Highland Ave.
Before we started this process, manufactured homes were allowed in Res B. And I believe in the changes, we said, don't touch Res B, let's address everything else. Is that correct?
Was manufactured allowed in B before? What?
Yeah, just double wides.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
But, and this wouldn't, so what Cassie's saying is.
That
setting the
removes,
standards
right.
of you're still only only allowing double wides at that point, correct?
Yeah, because we didn't do anything to Res
Otherwise,
B,
we're
did we?
opening up Res B to
We didn't
single
touch
wide.
residential.
We didn't touch Res B.
Right, but your so
But by not
prior.
touching it, we're allowing single.
Right,
wides,
so
right?
the way it was previously written, we said only double wides, right?
Yeah.
By removing the pitch, we are now not restricting it to double wides.
Right.
Okay? The pitch requirement is what takes it from
It makes sense.
double wide to single wide.
That makes sense.
It makes sense to me too.
Right.
You're
I think
effectively
it's-
allowing single wides in that
Yeah,
zone.
I think like an important part of what Cassie was saying too is now manufactured housing is not just like double wide, single wide. Like people can buy full 2-story homes. Yeah. I mean, if we really want to get technical, I live on Morrill Ave, and technically some of those 1920s houses were out of a Sears catalog, manufactured housing.
I look at Colby's new dorms.
Right.
That is manufactured,
Exactly. So
technically.
that's why this, like, that's why we're being encouraged by the state to like kind of look beyond the two, like single wide, double wide definition. What we're looking to do is to remove the restrictive covenant so that we're not prohibiting these like frankly houses that are way nicer than the one I live in, which I love my house, but like we're talking about like some Danish modern like castles. But they're still restricted from being built in Res A, B, C, D, because they're not either double wide or they are a manufactured home. Okay, so what I think the intent was here is to like avoid when we have an area that's ripe for development that happens to be residential B, we don't want to be restricting it A to only double wides, which isn't really the term anymore, but we don't want to just be restricting it to double wides and no other manufactured houses. But we do want to make sure that we maintain the integrity of the standards of the buildings that we're looking, like the manufactured homes built in 1920s have lasted 100 years.
Yeah.
Like we want to make sure that we're not worrying about something that might be deteriorating in 15 or 20 years. So that's the goal with the specifications, with the pitch of the roof and with the, in conjunction with the foundation.
Yeah.
There is a big difference, but I don't have any charts to share.
Props aren't allowed, the legislature. And then the other change that we talked about in the last meeting, Cassie, just to catch you up, was the size of the recreation area for mobile home parks. Okay. Since we were working on revising the ordinance, that is something that we were able to revise. And I think Scott sent around some proposed language. Do you want to share what you proposed, Scott, or? I can,
Sure.
got it.
I am not.
You want this?
Sure, thank you.
Printed.
So my understanding was, last time we talked about it, was the gentleman or the people that addressed us were concerned about the 10% rule with regard to recreation area as mandated in the state plan. 10% of the space allocated for lots would have to be reserved for recreation area, and that would amount to quite a bit of space. So we were trying to come up with some kind of compromise. The thought of applying the restrictions associated with septic system, which was 100 square feet, seemed to be too small. So the 300 feet was proposed as an alternative. That was kind of no one's happy, no one's sad type of compromise. And then there was some concern about what a recreation area is. And so I added some text from other regulations I found that provided more guidance. It's not legally binding, but it's just, at least there's an intent that a recreation area should be used for certain things. So that was the intent of the proposed text.
Any thoughts? Dave?
I will say thank you, Scott.
Yeah.
I would like to propose a couple of edits to it. In, I don't know, halfway down of the paragraph for recreation area, there's a sentence that starts, such areas shall be easily accessible to all park residents, and it goes on. Towards the end, it also talks about recreation areas are expected to be well-maintained, safe, and accessible to all residents. So I would propose editing that to say, up above, such areas shall be located so as to be free of traffic hazards, and just leave the accessible to all park residents down further to remove that redundancy. And then one of the last sentences, it says, this may involve regular inspections, repairs, and ensuring the facilities are free of hazards. I would like to see that changed to regular inspections, repairs, and ensuring facilities are free of hazards is a requirement. And if we need to add in regular inspections by the property manager or whoever's responsible for property management, I think it would be assumed that it's their responsibility by saying it that way. But those were my only thoughts.
I'm sorry, David, could you repeat on that second one? What are you doing with the inspections?
So I would remove the words "this may involve" and just have it start regular inspections, repairs, and ensuring the facilities are free of hazards is a requirement, or is required.
Tom and then Cassie.
My only concern, I guess, the lawyer in me is, what's your definition of regular? It's a regular inspection.
It's a great question. I guess
As
regular,
is
I would
there-
say regular enough to make sure that it is free of hazards
Is there a?
and well-maintained.
Dan, Is there a regular inspection?
Routine inspections as needed, or annual inspections as needed, something, so something's finite there.
I'm fine with routine inspections as needed.
I thought you were going
I
to
mean,
say
I think it's
who's
just as
doing
vague.
the inspecting, because that it's not
But-
clear that it's, to me, it's not clear that it's the owner inspecting his own property. So you could just leave out the inspections and repairs and just ensure the facilities are free of hazards, something like that, rather.
Yeah, the residents would let us.
He's going to have to take a look at it to be sure that it's free of hazards, right?
This is very true.
Who would be in charge of enforcing that? Is that you at that point? So, what do you mean?
I agree. Regular inspections, what does that mean? Yes, we hate grayness, right? Just ensuring that it is maintained, safe, and accessible to all residents, and free of hazards. To me, that's kind of the same thing. It says the same thing. You got to inspect it. To me, I would take out the part about the inspections.
So
Better off to put something in there that gives you the right to inspect it, though?
I mean, I already do,
Yeah.
yeah.
so.
So we could say recreation areas are expected to be well-maintained, safe, free of hazards, and accessible to all residents?
That sounds good to me.
Yeah. Sounds like something I could work with.
The word expected, how about shall be?
Sure.
Just something that,
Or will be?
May,
whose expectation?
shall,
Will be.
I have one suggestion
Yes.
too. In the part 2 of under proposed text, it says mobile home parks served by public sewer developers must provide recreation areas at least equal to the size, in size to 300 square feet of recreation space per unit. I don't know if like on West River Road, do we have 3 separate parks or are those considered one? In all 3 parks together, there are 650 units, which apparently is around 195,000 square feet, which is roughly 4 city blocks. So if we keep 300 square feet of recreation space per unit, if it's combined, like in one location, or is it per lot? Are we supposed to have 300 square feet per lot for each home? Or are we talking about a combined 300 square feet per unit
Well,
in one recreation
we
space?
can't go retroactively,
Yeah.
right?
That's fine, but as
So
an
it'd
example,
only-
for an example.
Yeah, it would
What
only
she's
be
saying is
new
instead of
developments.
having what they did at some of our parks now and said, this one lot isn't usable, so we're considering this recreation space and doing that in 12 different spaces, should we require it to be a recreation area for the facility, not 12 tiny little spaces that are here, there, and everywhere?
It says,
I use the term contiguous to try to address that.
right.
I don't see that. Oh, contiguous recreation space. Yep, okay. So if we are talking about contiguous space for all 3 of those, like, I don't know if Dan, are those 3 separate parks or one?
They are currently 3, but the intent is to eventually merge them.
Okay. So for example, in a place that had as many residences as we have there now, we're talking about 4 city blocks of contiguous recreational space. 4 city blocks is pretty large. It's 3 football fields.
The state will allow us to do 10.
10%?
Yeah, 10%,
Right, but
which would be way more.
10% of, is more than 3 football fields?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, the 300 square feet is 5%, 6% maybe?
Right.
Typical lot size.
Yeah, minimum is 5,000, so 10% would be 500 per, and we're at 300 per.
How big is, I'm sorry. you lost
5,000 is the
math.
minimum.
5,000 is the minimum lot
size. And so 10% would be 500. We're at 300.
Yeah, but some of that space is being inhabited by a housing unit. We're talking about empty space.
The way that it's calculated, it's for each of the units. So if a park has 50 units, 5,000 minimum, that's what, 250,000? 10% of that is what, 25,000 square feet? But if we use 300, we're talking about 1,500. Yeah. But we're talking about, the idea was that the people that addressed the council seemed to be concerned that 10% was a lot of space, and it is.
Randy
So we
Butler.
tried to come up with a little bit less that seemed more reasonable, which is about 6%.
Randy Butler was on the Zoom at the last meeting, and he basically said with the Countryside Phase 2 expansion, which they're designing, the recreation area at a 10% recreation area would be equivalent to roughly 6 units, the land of 6 mobile home units. So they were proposing. Yeah.
So if a lot is 5,000 square feet, 6 times 5 is 30,000 square feet.
That's what they did, yeah.
So that's the state minimum of 10%, right? Okay. I don't know how many units that is, but in that park, do you know what the total number of units are? I can't do the
He didn't
reverse.
say,
math.
I guess it's still under, yeah.
So if 6 units, all right, well, the point is if there are 100 units in that park and we're looking at 300 square feet per unit, oh, like embarrassed I have to do this on camera. Like,
And I will say
so
Randy
that's
was very
30,000.
comfortable with 300.
Okay, I'm not gonna
He
second
was
guess you guys.
comfortable with that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
whatever they decide, that's cool. That was my only
They were concerned about the financial the hit they would take if they had to give away, let's say, 6 lots instead of 3. So it was just a trade-off.
Yes, totally understand that. But I'm saying, consider the fact that there are 650 units in those 3 parks. I know we're not building a 650-unit park, but in a park the size that we have combined with those 3 parks, if we were to use 300 square feet per unit, 300 times 650.
Are they on city water, sewer?
Yeah.
It's, what,
is
180,000?
195,000 square feet, which is the equivalent of 3 football fields or 4 city blocks.
But you're also talking about if you're at 5,000 square feet per unit, right? At 5,000 square feet per unit, times 650, that's 3,250,000 square feet.
So that's 300, okay. So it is
So in the grand scheme of it,
less than half, okay. So it is better than 10%, but still, that's so much space, but whatever.
But no one
Yeah.
would put in 600 units at once either, so they would be building like
Right.
a park.
and if
Yeah.
they did, they should.
And then they
put
would
in
have to have a
4
recreation
square
area as
park.
part of that park.
That's
And then
huge. I mean,
the next expansion.
There's a lot, the
Show a
consideration that I have
recreation area.
is that like 4 city blocks is a lot of housing to lose, but I guess it's important to have space, so I agree with you. I just wanted to make sure that like 200,000 square feet seemed like a lot to me, but in comparison to 350, it's not. Both are a lot though.
We'll designate you to be a mathematician going forward.
It's a terrible idea. All right.
But like, if someone's putting in 100 units, right, then they would have to put a recreation size for 100 units. And then if they do another phase, they would have to put recreation size in that new phase to match those units. It wouldn't be like 600 units at once. I truly can't imagine
Yeah.
Yeah, we're looking at like
that they would do
the
that.
300 versus 10% is like 3/5 of what it was. So that makes sense. It's just a lot. I was like, it's a lot of.
I think the concern was if we didn't say continuous, then we would end up with like the park bench over there.
Yeah, 100%. I think that the current free space in the current park is not awesome.
Is there anything else that anybody would suggest to put in there? I know some language in there for recreational use may include.
So I wonder if just by adding a similar use or a similar space as approved by the board would suffice as well. And then if it is like a larger area and we're like, okay, it's unreasonable to put 4 city blocks of space in the middle, the board could also.
Right, so maybe like, or if the park wants to have an alternate plan, they could appeal to the planning board or.
I mean, we
council or
approve all of the site plans anyway.
Right, but.
So if somebody did come with a, 600 lot park,
Well, yeah, we should put the provision in, Sam, I agree with you.
I mean, I don't know if I can wordsmith that right now.
I think that's a good.
Or, what did I write down? Or a similar use suitable to the board, because I was just thinking, we did like, may include a playground, swimming pools, athletic fields, parks, or a similar use, but I'm trying to think of a way that you could like also,
I mean,
As approved by the planning
you
board.
just, right, contiguous recreational space as approved by the board shall be provided as follows.
okay.
Or if the park's large enough to justify having, because if you have a park that large too, you don't maybe want just one big
Right.
space. You might want it to have it accessible from different parts. So maybe you want 2 separate
Right.
swimming pool areas, who knows?
Right.
Okay,
Awesome.
did you get all of that?
No. Okay, so first of all, I didn't get, David, I thought, said contiguous recreational space as approved by the board, and the board has to approve whatever recreational space. I think what you meant was, or in more, that it doesn't have to be contiguous if the board
Or-
approves?
Or an alternate plan as approved by the board or something?
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah,
Okay.
I like it. Because it leaves some room.
But I think, I agree with you, Kathy, that I think we have to see what is there and then come up with something, instead of coming up with something which isn't going to fit what's going in there.
Yep.
So whatever language that's going to be.
And it really will depend, if it is a 100-unit park versus a 600-unit park, there really will be different needs. So I think, you know, Waterville has a pretty good history of planning boards who are good at considering things like that. So leaving the power for flexibility in, I think is awesome.
Well, I mean, if it's a 600-unit park too, you don't want necessarily one central, because it's not as accessible by all residents,
Yeah.
right? So,
Maybe you want different types
Yeah.
of,
Well, and I know last week Dan had mentioned that it's an elderly park, that would obviously affect
Yeah.
what they're putting in. So, you know, leaving it a little bit vague, but still needing approval is important.
Okay, the other issue I have is that we added the definitions from the state law. We added the definition of, hang on one second, permanent foundation and pitch shingle roof. And those don't fit what we're saying we want. What did we say we wanted? We said permanent, hang on a second. The foundation section is on page 6. Must have a permanent foundation as defined, except that in the residential A, C, and D zones and in designated historic districts, mobile homes must be installed over a basement or frost wall. Concrete blocks are not permitted. So if we, as Cassie was suggesting, I think what you said was you want
A, B, C.
all.
Add B as well,
all-
yeah.
Yep.
All zones.
Yeah.
So we don't need to mention the zones at all. But then what happens to the definitions that the state told us we had to use? How do we deal with that?
Well, you do still have to use the zones because they would still be allowed in, without a foundation in rural residential.
Oh, so rural residential is the only zone where we're allowing them to be
and
on?
in parks,
Yeah, and in parks.
where they can live on a pad, essentially.
Okay,
Anywhere
hang on one second.
anywhere in a neighborhood needs to be not on a pad.
Okay, okay. So A, B, C, and D, and designated. So, all right. So that means they're allowed in RR. And RR.
Is that what everybody thought?
And parks.
That's what I thought, that's
Yep.
what I meant. But
So, but I'll change that language for the pitched roof too.
Yep, to just add the B. And then the definitions still work, right?
Okay, yes, thank you.
Okay.
One, it would be easier for folks to install this type of housing on a pad, recognizing that there are obviously some longevity issues. Do we want to permit that as like a timeline where they could install on a pad for some temporary period until they have the funding to do a full basement, or is?
No, I think that's defeats what we're trying to accomplish.
I think it would be very difficult to then, it's going to be more costly because then you're going to have to jack up your house to put in the,
Yeah, you have to jack it up.
Yeah.
There's a frame issue also, so
Yeah.
when it goes on a basement or a frost wall, it has a different frame underneath it than it does if it's sitting on blocks on a pad. So blocking it up would be difficult to do if it has one of those special frames, it's a perimeter frame. So instead of it having it inset 3 feet without riggers, the frame comes all the way out to the perimeter, sits right on the foundation wall. So that would be hard to block. I don't even know if they would allow it, if the Manufactured Housing Board would allow an installation like that. I don't think they would. I don't see how you could. Plus, you'd have to take it apart. If it's a pitched roof, like we're saying, you'd have to take the roof down. It's pretty intensive to do. You got to get rid of the old slab, put a new foundation
It would be
in.
cheaper to get rid of the current house on the pad, build your foundation and stuff, and bring in a new house.
Plus, who's going to enforce it?
We don't,
So would you all trust me to make these changes, and I'll send them to you in the morning, and you can all make sure that I got it right, rather than have me try to read this scribbly mess right now?
I'm
The
fine with
afternoon will be okay.
Okay, thank
that. You can do your Duolingo tonight, Ann.
Thank you. Okay.
Do we want to vote on this at our next meeting, or?
Well, it would be nice to get it done, as long as you trust me to have the language that you all said at this meeting. So we're only making the changes to the roof, the foundation, and the recreation area.
There's one other thing that we had about a fence.
Oh.
It was page 5,
Ooh, I don't know.
screening and buffer, and I think you wanted to add or a stockade fence as approved by a board.
Oh, which one? Okay, under item number 5.
Item number
right?
5. It was on page 5 on my printout. There's screening of mobile home parks. I had a note from the last meeting.
Yeah, I remember that.
I do remember
I
that
can
too.
read it out loud. Screening is required within the first 25 feet of the buffer strip as measured from the exterior boundaries of the mobile home park in conformity with 30-A MRS 43583, as amended from time to time. Such screening shall be planted with trees or shrubs and maintained to provide a permanent screen or a stockade fence as approved by the board. We're going to add or a stockade fence.
Well, so maybe you want to say such screening shall be planted with trees or shrubs or a stockade fence and maintained.
We're going to have maintained inclusive with the stockade fence as well as the
Yeah.
trees?
Yeah.
Okay. We'll maintain the fence as well.
Yeah.
So Ann, I don't know procedurally, are we able to just like say, vote via email? Or do we vote on it now and then we just give you the go-ahead via email?
It's clear what sections you want. I mean, you said what you wanted.
Yeah.
The question is, did I get it exactly right? Let me write down add the fence before I forget.
Could we say that it's passed, subject to any of the planning board members' objection within 24 hours? I mean, just so there'll be a drop dead time.
Yeah.
Are we in a huge hurry? Is there any?
Oh, we could, if you wanted to, that would be even easier. We just
Okay.
postpone
It's May 13th is our next meeting, right?
next meeting.
And then we can vote on it then, after the edits are made.
Do you see
that
any
fine?
urgency,
That's fine.
Dan?
Yeah, I don't, no. No, I don't. That's cleaner, I think.
I'll make a motion to postpone until the May 13th
second.
meeting.
Okay, I'm sorry, David. Postpone, and Cassie seconded.
All those in favor?
Okay. So if you all would please sign the plans for whatever that was, 415 KMD.
Oh, yep.
And we'll have to get the plan for the hangar.
Okay, motion to adjourn.
Second?